Hello everybody, hope you're having a wonderful day, and today finally I'm bringing you guys my final thoughts on the Chavez Production Knives Scapegoat. This isn't the older one, this is the brand new one that dropped about a month and some change ago. I got it the second that it became available, and I've been using it quite a bit. I've been babying it, of course, and putting it mainly through cardboard destruction tests, double, triple walled cardboard, the dense stuff, the cheap stuff, stuff that's caked in, tape and things like that. But that's about it. If you guys hear my dogs barking in the background, sorry about that. My wife's just getting home right now, so they're probably gonna be yapping a little bit. But anyway, we have 6 size comparison size knives that we're gonna use to just put up against it so you guys can see what this is. We'll take the weight, of course, and then I'll give my final thoughts. It's pretty straightforward, but with a little bit more to it than some of the other stuff I've been bringing to you guys. I want to talk about some additional items that I've added to this internally. Now, I put skiff washers and bearings in here, and the reason why it took so long to do my review was because I spent about a week with the bearings, and then 2 weeks with the washers, and I went back to bearings, and then I kind of went back and forth. Now, while the bearing action is just, as you can see, just incredible once you get past that D10 ramp, genuine guillotine, drop shutty, your fingernail is coming off with it. If you don't get hit by that little spot right there, if you miss it, it comes directly down onto your thumb right there. A little design thing, but it's very easily avoidable. Anyway, we'll get into that in just a second. So let's start with some larger ones, and then we'll go to smaller ones. These are what I would consider large or full-size knives. This is a Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight. And here we have the MSI with titanium original goat scales. So you guys are probably gonna start seeing all throughout social media platforms people who pre-ordered these back in, I believe, early November. I was one of the early ones as well to order some, and yeah, many months later they're finally here. So Microtech MSI, and let's do some medium-sized ones. CMB Made Knives Predator. It is from tip to tail exactly the same length overall. Civivi Vision FG, about the same length overall as well. And then we have 2 other ones that are on the more compact side. This is a very well loved / abused Spyderco Native 5 lightweight. And then last but most definitely not least, a Free Tiger. This is the model FT2103. It's a wonderful little budget knife. I use it quite a bit actually. But yeah, so hopefully this helps you guys get a good visual representation of what the Scapegoat is all about. If you go, and I will, if I remember, I will link down Chavez's official website. There is a silhouette lineup of all the models, all the streets, the different blade shapes, and this, then the other. It does not include customs. It's just the production stuff. But the Scapegoat, besides the utility blades like the Chub, I believe it's called, or the Tack, or some crap like Tank, or some crap like that, the actual knives, the Scapegoat is the shortest and the most compact overall. But in my opinion, it is the most attractive looking one, because you have this just ridiculously aggressive looking blade shape here. It is an ultra drop point. It is just, I mean, just look at that. And it almost looks like it's a clip point. It is most definitely not a clip point. There is no swoop or curve to that. It is absolutely flat. But even still, the tip is damn near in line with the pivot. So this is Definitely a utilitarian blade shape in my opinion, and I've enjoyed taking it to work quite a bit. Also, sharpening this thing, it is an absolute dream, because the sharpening choil here, it's cool, it's good. Obviously that's a joke. It's this giant freaking thing. This is super exaggerated. A lot of people, I know a lot of people don't think that this is attractive, and that's okay. There are plenty of people that think Spyderco knives are ugly, but you know what? They continue to break record sales every year, so clearly people like them. So it's okay not to like something. And I'm gonna tell you guys already now, this is not for me. I'm gonna be actually getting rid of this through Blade Binge. I would love to hold on to it, but this is just money sitting here that I could put towards something else that I've been drooling over, right? Money is not infinite in my world. It may be in yours, so that's why I'm getting rid of it. I have enjoyed it in the time that I have, but because I want to experience other things, this is something that I'm willing to let go. There isn't enough here to satisfy me in particular. I'm still learning and trying to figure out what I want and what I genuinely crave out of a design. And this is the first thing I've ever checked out from Chavez. And while this is the only example of it, I've decided that it's just not for me. If another Chavez model comes my way in the future, 5.7, nothing crazy. For what it is full thickness. But as I was mentioning, if another Chavez production knife comes my way in the future, whether it's being lent to me or I'm doing some sharpening service. If you guys don't know that, I'm offering a affordable sharpening service. Prices range between $30 and $50 per knife, and of course shipping, it could be free, won't be free depending on how many knives. But if something else comes my way that is from Chavez, I will definitely showcase it and make product spotlight videos, because I think they're really cool knives, but they're not for me. This to me is the equivalent of seeing an old school biker dude with flaming skull tattoos. He looks like a badass. Will I ever get flaming skull tattoos? I really wish I had the balls to, but I don't. And a lot of people don't anymore, because that's just not really the thing. So this is kind of like that for me. This is too much beefiness. It's just a honkin' freaking thing. It's a pocket tank. It's full thickness, 0 milling. It damn near feels like an unfinished product. But the craziest thing is that this is one of the most elite pivot knives I have ever checked out. The detent, the release of, the tension of the actual detent, it is just... it's freaking beautiful. I mean, it doesn't sound super aggressive, and there was a second where I had accidentally bent out the clip a little bit, and it would actually, make a little bit of sound and ting a good bit, and it was a cool little sound. But obviously, I don't like a tappy clip, and I know a lot of you guys don't either. But I had, worn some thicker pent material, and it just kind of bent out the clip. I got it back to sit flat, maybe just a tiniest bit, a little tap there, but not enough to make that sound anymore. But this is just immaculate within the pivot. There is zero movement within the pivot, side to side like a tank, up and down, nothing. This thing isn't going anywhere. This is truly a bruiser beater frame lock knife. And while I love all those things that I just mentioned, the thickness and some of the visuals when it comes to how, I guess, plain the aesthetic is, it's just not for me. Now, if this were to have stayed in the collection, like I thought I was going to, I would do a bunch of customization to it. But at this moment in time, I don't think that my skills are worth potentially ruining this knife. I think selling it off to somebody who will appreciate it as is in its bare form, or if they want to go modify it and do whatever the hell they want with it, they can do what they want with it because it's theirs now. But there are multiple variations of this sold through a couple other retailers. There are some like rare or sprint variations, and a handful sold on Chavez's website. Most of them are sold out, unfortunately. And one thing that kind of bugged me is that one of them in particular was actually in, I believe, 3V blade material. This guy's an M390. Now, I may kill my sales on this thing, but I believe that you guys deserve to hear, you know, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. I think the HRC on this, while I don't know what it is exactly, this was a little too easy to sharpen. I did reprofile it. I believe there is a 17 or 18 degree edge on this thing, and it sharpened up quite easily. I was able to get the, you know, burr to form properly, and, you know, no major chips or rolls or anything have occurred afterwards. I've refreshed the edge since then for the purpose of passing it on to somebody else so they can enjoy a nice fresh edge, but that's about it. So I would say that through my sharpening experience, this thing felt as if it was heat treated by Hinderer knives. That is not a compliment, but that's just kind of what it is. Now, what kind of bothered me is that there was a variation of this that flew off the shelf that was in 3V. So Riot, however you would like to pronounce it, they could have brought this to the market in 3V, a much more suitable and appropriate blade material for this thick of a knife, thin behind the edge. It just would have been better. People are tired of trash heat treat M390, and while this isn't the worst of the worst, I can feel it when it comes to sharpening. Now, M390, when it is heat treated to, you know, the lower end of the industry standard, and that's what this feels like, genuinely. Now, I don't have any qualifications to, you know, speak a little bit more I guess professionally on that. I'm just merely talking about my two experiences of sharpening this, the reprofiling and the one touch-up sharpening job that I've done. It just feels like it's a little too soft. And 3V, I remember the maybe 2 times that I've sharpened 3V, did not feel like that. 3V sharpens up beautifully, and I can put a very coarse edge on it, and it's quite responsive to some light stropping. This is the same in a way, but I personally believe that 3V would have been more appropriate, would have held an edge a little bit longer, and it would have given this thing a little bit more enthusiast spice. Again, there are other variations. I am just talking about the plain Jane. This is the bare bones, the cheapest one you could possibly get, and it's still $300. So with that being said, do I think that it is worth the money? Yeah, it is absolutely worth that money. It's just not my kind of knife. So if you're someone out there looking to get a new Scapegoat Chavez production knife, yeah, I think you're gonna be pretty darn happy with this thing. This does have a detent ramp, and it has broken in quite well, but it can still get hung up right about here. So that is locked. You hear the little ting, and then I go to release, travel until there. So that, see, just a little bit, my fingers weren't on the lock bar, so just the weight of the blade. Now there's a lot of weight here, right? But just the tiniest little nudge of encouragement, and it comes rolling right off that detent ramp. I'm not a fan of detent ramps, but this is probably the best D10 wrap I've ever experienced. So if that means anything to you guys, there it is. Visually speaking, very plain and simple. I wish there was some sort of light milling or texturing to the scales. This is quite slick, but because of the blocky nature of it, this isn't really something that kind of slipped around in my hand too often. Again, I also babied it as well, so I had a grip on this thing quite a bit. But with the hardware here, you could see that versus pretty much all the other models, you have hidden screws there, so it's actually inside once you take off this front scale here. Non-reversible, of course, but I would say a pretty clean build, relatively minimal hardware, and one of the best parts about it is that it is T8 all the way around. Now the pivot, it is free spinning. It's a full circle pivot, and I believe that's why it is as smooth and as incredible within the pivot as it is. But you're gonna need to have two drivers to take this apart. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's just kind of how it is. That's how it's built. I'm not the biggest fan of how these stick out so much. They're not sharp, they're not jagged, they're just kind of an eyesore, as well as the ones over here. And again, this is just me and what I've decided, what I like, what I don't like. I understand that this is the aesthetic, but I gave it a shot and it's just not me. The skull pocket clip, I have not once removed it to put the extra plain Jane pocket clip that comes with all new models now, because I believe the skull pocket clip, it's part of the aesthetic, it's part of it. From the crazy grind and the super coarse satins that they don't bug me at all, because it just makes sense for this build. It just makes sense for the design and the language that's going on here. But it's not a language that I speak. And while I enjoyed it while I had it, and had a good time with it at work and fidgeting with it, and even the time that I had with the washers, this is an incredible knife with washers in the pivot. Whoever does pick this up, I'm including the skiffs and thick washers at no extra cost. So but because it is still essentially in the best condition as can be, close to new, plus a reprofile laser beam of an edge, new pivot systems, I'm gonna charge $300. I think that's fair, because work has gone into this and extra goodies are added to it. So I think that's fair. Of course, whoever sees this might not be too enticed until they read the description and see that there is more stuff involved. But whoever does pick this up, if they are interested, I know they're gonna have a good time going to work with this thing, or maybe they're not gonna go to work with this. Maybe this is just gonna be a collector piece, and it definitely can be. This is a clean slate to send to anybody to customize, and I think this is a wonderful profile to have some heavy customization done to. You have, again, full thickness 0 milling scales. You have a big chunk titanium back spacer, the clip. All the hardware on here is steel, including the studs. Now, talking about the studs, they do protrude just the tiniest bit, but they're super comfortable. I could freaking flick this thing all day, reverse flick. It doesn't chew up my fingers at all. It gets to the point where right before it starts to feel like it might be uncomfortable, it releases immediately, and it just flies out. There's zero drag, as if it just disappears. It's pretty crazy how good this thing is and how fast it actually broke in. So pretty much there really isn't a whole lot more to talk about. Perfect hardware, wonderful blade shape for sharpening and day-to-day utilitarian use, really cool flare with the pocket clip. If this is the language you speak, if this is a design language that you enjoy, or you see potential for modification in this, go ahead and pick one of these up, and it may not have to be the one that I'm selling. You can go and get a brand new one if these are still available, which they might be, I don't know. But they're about $300, and it only goes up from there. If you can find the other variations, some have inlays, some have like a dark wash on them, some have, you know, different materials here, there, wherever. And there are some ultra primo ones, of course. I think Crane's Cutlery might have done something, possibly. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, this thing is essentially a perfect knife. It's just not for me. That's pretty much it. So if you guys enjoy this video, go ahead and leave a like down below. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support and your patience, of course. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing, because I have plenty more videos and content coming you guys this way. With that being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.